Good morning, Gators. I am your Vice President, Caleb Weisinger. 2 weeks ago, me and my fellow SGA members, alongside Coach Gregory and Mr. Wilson, met with Dr. White to discuss some plans we have for the first semester of this school year. And as many of you, okay, so if some of you don't know, we have a sister school down in the Dominican Republic called Las Palmas Christian School that we support financially. And one of the major ways we did this in the past has been with our Dollar Jeans Days. But since jeans have been added to the dress code last year, we haven't been raising as much money for the Dominican Republic, which hasn't been that good. So, as I mentioned in my campaign speech when I was up here a couple months ago, one of my ideas was to have a $1 T-shirt Friday periodically that would raise money for the Dominican Republic and just kind of take the place of that Dollar Jeans Day. After meeting with Dr. White, I am very happy to announce that every Friday this year, you'll be able to wear a GCA T-shirt to school for $1 to raise money for the Dominican Republic. There will be a letter going home this week to your parents and all the students just concerning how you're going to pay for this, because we're going to do it kind of different this year. I'd like to thank my fellow SGA team and, of course, Dr. White for approving this idea. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Stand Proud, Stand Tall by Ron Tranmer. The flag of our nation, a flag under God. To our flag we will always be true. Stand proud and stand tall with hand over heart as we honor the red, white, and blue.
A symbol of freedom, a banner for all who reside underneath its proud wave. Though battered and torn, shattered and worn, it flies over the home of the brave.
Stand proud, stand tall, with hand over heart, with respect for this flag we so love. May this land always be strong and free and protected by God from above.
We are a proud nation, one under God. It was he who gave us this land. Free we remain to praise his great name. Rise up and for God make a stand.
Our flag has flown high over battlefields, covered caskets of daughters and sons. Great is the cost through lives that are lost, we will gratefully remember each one.
Stand proud, stand tall, with hand over heart, with respect for this flag that we love. May this land always be strong and free and protected by God from above.
America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Tomorrow the things are gone. I worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my God above to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. There's pride in every American heart, and it's time to stand and say, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Thank you, guys. That was fantastic, a great rendition. We have invited Mr. Pat Armstrong to speak to us today. Mr. Armstrong is a veteran. He served proudly in one of the branches, I want to say Navy? Army. Oh, excuse me. Army. I'm sorry, Pat. Anyhow, he also was a long-term sub here last year. Some of you may have been in Mr. Armstrong's classes. Those of you that are watching anyhow in your classroom may have been. So I'd like to invite him to come and speak to us today. It's good to have you, Mr. Armstrong.
Please go ahead and sit down, please. Well, what a great opportunity for me to come back here. Again, I'd like to thank Dr. White. Is this better? There we go. Again, I'd like to thank Dr. White and Mr. Mowry for inviting me to come and be able to talk to you today. The good news is I promised to be relatively short. I do want to cover, I think, real important parts of this great day of ours, that Veterans Day and celebration of it. And I also want to leave you with just a thought, a concern that maybe, hopefully, will cause you to think about some things in the future. As you know, Veterans Day is a day where we gather to salute the service of our veterans. We keep all of our families and thoughts and prayers for the fallen, the missing, and those who are right now serving in harm's way. We honor every man and woman who has worn a uniform for our nation and that has selflessly served to support America's promise. We also gratefully acknowledge the generations of men and women that have traveled and have gone to distant lands to support countries that they've never even heard of before, and people that they've never met, that they've gone and they've done that to support them as veterans. You'll find that tomorrow at at 99 years ago tomorrow, at the 11th hour, the 11th day, is where we come to support and to identify this as being Veterans Day. How did we come with that date and time? That date and time was identified because that was the end of World War I, the armistice of World War I, when the last rounds were fired for what they said or described as the war to end all wars. You know here today, and we have continued to find out that really and truly that wars have not ended at all. And since that day long ago, Americans have continued to answer the call to service again and again. And we've done that at World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Persian Gulf, more recently Afghanistan. And right now we have some men and women that are more than likely on call, ready to go at a moment's notice to report to some place to serve their country at a moment's notice, with an understanding that, in fact, they may not come back from the mission that they are asked to go to. Not far from here in Virginia, there's a Civil War battlefield, Antietam, a battlefield where regiments filled with young men, and some of those young men, many of those young men, might have been ages of those of you that are in this audience or younger. They clashed together in a battle that in just a matter of minutes during the Civil War destroyed 50 to 75% of the units that were fighting that day on that battlefield. And during that time period, more than 22,000 souls were lost, were killed, or were lost in war and never returned in just a matter of minutes. Now, this was a cruel moment in our nation's history, and a clear reminder that wars are not clean. Wars are not neat. Wars impact the lives of families. They impact churches. They impact businesses. Wars affect the lives of its citizens for hundreds and in some cases thousands of years. If you go into Europe and some of these countries, people are still fighting over and over the wars that they have fought for thousands of years. Now that may sound a little foreign to us because our country is not as old as some of these other countries, but I would like you to reflect that today in the United States, we are wrestling with complex feelings and attitudes that have been generated from our past wars. Some citizens believe that past veterans must now be certified as acceptable if their names and images are to remain a part of our nation's story. Citizens groups mark suspect individuals for inspection with little regard for the veteran, nor the consideration for the veteran's leadership or appreciation for the extraordinary bravery that caused that recognition of the veteran in the first place. Instead, concerned citizens place veterans and soldiers and leaders under a microscope to be looked at, to be studied. A microscope that is not able to divine or appreciate the context of the war the veteran fought, or the battlefield the veteran fought on, or the place that they occupied to defend themselves or our country. Instead, these groups of citizens have decided to take a look at veteran life events, activities, writings, and they sift those findings through an unknown and often changing standard of their view of what an acceptable veteran is. Now, I know that this is a little bit controversial. It might be a surprise to some of you that I would be saying these things, but these are things that should be considered by all of us great citizens of this country of ours. And it doesn't require, a lot of, it requires some patience on our part to be able to listen to the other side and other folks, but this is an important issue for, I believe, us, and especially, I think, for you young people today. It's important because the cleansing of our veterans' names and statues from streets, buildings, parks, meeting areas, because they no longer meet an unstated standard of behavior, beliefs, or writings, has nothing to do with the selfless service, bravery, or leadership that caused the veteran to be recognized in the first place. So why should what marks us as being different? Well, in our country, and this is a very, very important factor for you all to understand, and many of you have family members that are in the service or have served before. In the United States of America, our veterans and leaders are required to publicly set aside their sense of self. And instead, they volunteer their service to a greater cause, a cause that is focused on not an individual or a political party, but is focused on and welded to the Constitution of this great country of ours. So we don't put all of our support towards an individual. We put our support towards a concept that is really important, that you're learning about in the classroom, that hopefully that you're learning about, and that I would just encourage you to really take a look at, and that is the great Constitution of our country. Our leaders, soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen must publicly swear their support to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those are important words, foreign and domestic. That implies that what we are about and what our country is about is not necessarily guaranteed to be the same just because we say it so. We can find ourselves over time sliding down a slope that causes us to discard the values that our founding fathers created this great country upon. So, my feeling is that if there's a need to determine the worthiness of the reputation of a veteran that is associated with a college or a university, or a desire to validate the appropriateness of a veteran statue in a public area, or the concerned area for a veteran, that standard should be measured. It should be a simple measurement of standard, and it should be well known and understood by the citizens. And really what has happened is sometimes we conflate and confuse all of this by making things more difficult than they really are. And so when we look at these past leaders, our founding fathers, the folks that streets are named after and that statues are placed there for, one of the things that we must ask, and especially in regard to veterans, is we have to ask, did they support and defend the Constitution of the United States? And if the answer to that question is yes, then the name or the image of that veteran must be certified as suitable. There should be no more discussion about that. And so I would encourage you to think about these issues. I know that some of them are popular to talk about, and it's easy to be swayed by thoughts and ideas, but sometimes what we need to do is we need to take a look at an argument from the simplest perspective. And we all know because we are, this is a Christian school, we know that we live in a fallen world, a world where each of us are going to fail. Our leaders will fail. Our veterans have failed. Those things are there, but they do not necessarily meet the standard that would cause statues or names to be taken off of different areas or meeting places. So we are blessed to live here in this area, in an area that is just surrounded by a multitude of veterans and people from all different services. We're blessed to be able to hear the boom of jets flying over. We see on a certainly a yearly basis families, soldiers and sailors that are leaving and departing, and families that are sacrificing. You probably know families who have fathers or mothers that are deployed and overseas right now. We are blessed to be able to live that experience in this area. So tomorrow, which is Veterans Day, the 99 years ago tomorrow, at 11 o'clock, the 11th day is when everybody will celebrate this time. Take time to say a prayer for those veterans that are here, those people that have fallen. Take time to thank a veteran that you might know, a family member or someone that is there. Write a note, jot a note to them. They would be really appreciative of that. Most importantly, do not take for granted what the blood and the sacrifice that these veterans have had for you and the importance of that on your lives. Think critically in this school. Learn, pay attention to what your teachers have to say. Learn, study the Constitution. Learn critical thinking skills, be able to discuss things in a critical manner so that you're able to go forth in a world that can be very, very confusing. So, Mr. Mowry and Dr. White, I know you're out there somewhere. I saw him in here earlier today. I just appreciate having the opportunity to come here. I was able to sit through both the first chapel and this chapel as well. What a blessing it is for me to see your face and to have an understanding that the future of our country is going to be better because of students like you here at Greenbrier Christian Academy. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Armstrong. We thank you for being here today and speaking to us, and we also thank you for your service for our country. Just by show of hands, how many of you in here have a mom or a dad or a brother or sister that currently serve or have served in the military? Wow, that's amazing. And I'm sure if we could see into the classrooms, it would be amazing too. Well, I'd like to close today, and I would like to have a prayer for those men and women that are currently serving in the military, and just ask for the Lord to protect them. So let's bow our heads together as we pray. Father, thank you for Mr. Armstrong coming today to speak to us about our nation and about the veterans that have so bravely served our country. Thank you for the music that we heard this morning, Lord, and for those young people that provided that as well. Lord, right now I pray that you would be with those men and women that are bravely serving, whether it's at home or outside of our nation, that you would watch over them, Lord, protect them, keep them safe, keep them from harm's way, and as they bravely serve our nation, Lord, thank you for that service. Help us to always be appreciative of that and be grateful and thankful for the job that they do for us so fearlessly. So thank you for this time together, Lord, when we can honor our veterans, and thank you for you and all that you've done for us in sending your son, Jesus. It's in his name we pray. Amen. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Armstrong.